Israel take control of all of Gaza?
We intend to, in order to assure our security, remove Hamas there, enable the population to be free of Gaza, and to pass it to civilian governance.
So you heard it here first. That was the breaking news at this time yesterday. The Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu revealing his intention to take control of all of Gaza. That was from our exclusive sit down here in Israel. We have brand new developments on all that shaping our news at this hour. So on a Friday morning, welcome everyone. Good morning yet again from Tel Aviv. I'm Bill Hemmer, and Dana, good morning to you in New York.
Good morning. I'm Dana Perino. This is America's Newsroom. And Bill, it was really amazing to see all of the news that you were able to gather. And thank you for being our eyes and ears on the ground.
You bet. Quite a week. Yeah.
Indeed. Look forward to seeing you again. Well, Israel's security cabinet approving plans to take control of Gaza City, marking an escalation in the nearly 2-year-old war against Hamas, but stopping short of full Gaza control. So what does that mean?
So, yeah, the Security Council, Dana, met for 10 hours. They met until 4 o'clock in the morning here in Israel. They adopted 5 key goals, and Netanyahu laid those out yesterday.
But the 5 principles, the key principles are these. 1, Hamas has to lay down its arms. 2, Gaza has to be demilitarized. 3, all the hostages have to be released. And 4, Israel will be responsible for overall security. So if there's an attempt to have a resurgent Hamas or resurgent terrorism, we're the ones who are going to take care of it. And 5, let Gaza be governed by a civilian authority that is not Israel, because I don't want to occupy Gaza forever. I don't want to govern Gaza. I want to have a different governance there that basically is willing to live in peace with Israel and give Gazans a different future.
So we're going to give you all the information you need to know. We have full coverage. Bill Hemmer with more on his interview with the Prime Minister. Plus, Hugh Hewitt will join us in a moment. But first, senior foreign affairs correspondent Greg Palcott has the latest. Good morning, Greg.
Good morning, Dana. It was an all-nighter for Israel's security cabinet, but they did come up with a plan. A bit less than Netanyahu had promised Bill yesterday, but in the end, it could achieve the Prime Minister's aims. It's a takeover by military force of all of Gaza City. Israel controls some 75% of the devastated Gaza Strip, but there is land along the coast where civilians are huddled, hostages are being held, and presumably what's left of Hamas is holding up. This part of the operation will take weeks, including the evacuation of the civilians living there and the deployment of the Israeli military. Then it is presumed the operation could lead to further taking of territory. The plan is not without its controversy. Israeli military chiefs say their troops are tired, and actually running the whole place will take a huge amount of manpower, even though Netanyahu says he doesn't want to stay. The hostages, especially the 20 still living, will be in the direct line of fire in the war zone, and their lives, according to activists, will be in jeopardy. And this will all happen as Israel deals with a mammoth humanitarian problem. The U.S. and Israeli-backed aid units are barely keeping up with needs. More are planned. As for the remaining Hamas terrorists, whose routing out is at the center of all this, they show no sign of leaving, officials in recent days saying they have given up making compromises. Now, Dana, this, in fact, is the hope of some analysts, that this is all a negotiating ploy by Israel to make Hamas finally budge. Doesn't seem to be working so far. Back to you.
Nothing has, indeed. All right, Greg, thank you so much. Bill?
Let's bring in Fox News contributor Hugh Hewitt to the conversation. Hugh, thanks for being here today. A couple things here. It was my impression yesterday, walking into that room with the Prime Minister, that he had already made his mind up. He knows what he wants to do. Whether they go that far is yet to be seen. Again, this is the next phase, the next step, Gaza City, which is a huge job. Some reports suggesting their target date is to finish that by October 7th. Will be 2 years into the war. But how you move 2 million people and how you take care of them is going to be an enormous responsibility, Hugh.
It is, Bill, and good morning, Danny. Good morning, Bill. I want to begin by saying everyone who's interested in Israel, around the world, but especially in the United States, should watch Bill's 25-minute interview with the Prime Minister. It's over at foxnews.com. I rewatched it this morning. It's comprehensive, it's direct, it was probing. In fact, it was a bit confrontational, Bill, when you asked him about genocide. But what he said and what I took away, they don't want to keep Gaza. They're going to take Gaza City, they're going to take the rest of the Strip, and they're going to move civilians out beforehand, and then they're going to flood it with aid, and they're going to fight to get back the 50 hostages are left. The one thing that really stuck out, he landed the point again and again. Hamas invaded, killed 1,200, wounded 5,000, took 255. But what he reminded you, Bill, and I think we all need to keep front of mind, is that of those 255, only 50 are left. 148 were got out alive. The rest, their bodies were returned. And those 55 remain, or those 50 remain top of mind with the Prime Minister. This is, I think, an effort to get both Gaza freed from Hamas and those hostages who are alive and the bodies of the dead back to Israel. Excellent interview, comprehensive plan. It begins by taking Gaza City over 2 months.
Hugh, I want to play a little bit more from the interview. This is Netanyahu talking about his plans in terms of the scope and scale of it and the terms.
Are you saying today that you will take control of the entire 26-mile Gaza Strip, as it was 20 years ago to this month in 2005?
Well, we don't want to keep it. We want to have a security perimeter. We don't want to govern it. We don't want to be there as a governing body. We want to hand it over to Arab forces that will govern it properly without threatening us and giving Gazans a good life. That's not possible with Hamas.
Hugh, there's so many different things to ask you about. One of the things that's on my mind is, how does Israel maintain two things happening at once, which is, one, guaranteeing its own security and the security of its people, but also not losing what is a very difficult communications and propaganda war that Hamas is waging around the world, and especially in the mainstream media?
You know, that was one of the more interesting exchanges he had with Bill when he talked about the New York Times story on the starving child who wasn't starving but in fact was diseased, about another child who had cerebral palsy, about another child who was taken to Italy. That's why I think everyone should watch the whole thing. So the Prime Minister waded into the information war yesterday with Bill's interview, and I thought he did so very, very well, very adroitly. But he did say, we don't want to keep it. They're not going to occupy it. That means they're not going to go back to what was the status quo before they withdrew in 2005. What he does not want to do, and that, by the way, disappointed some members of his security cabinet. Nobody left that 10-hour meeting that Bill described at the top of the hour happy. Everybody is unhappy to some extent. The IDF, the far right wing that is part of the Netanyahu coalition, the opposition, the families of the hostages, some of them, no one left happy. But I trust Netanyahu, because he's right. 148 have been returned alive. And the reason we see the destruction that Bill captured is because Hamas is not only a terrorist organization, they're willing to sacrifice every last Gazan to their insane eschatology and their ideology. They are sadists, and I think that came through. So I appreciate the Prime Minister sitting down with Bill, because finally he stepped out into the middle and took some hard pitches down the middle, and he hit them all, I thought.
More to come, Hugh. Thank you for your kind words. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
Hugh Hewitt.
You bet.
Meanwhile, in Washington, a peace summit is set to take place at the White House after President Trump announced a historic deal between Armenia and Azerbaijan. It could put an end to decades of conflict between the former Soviet republics. The deal comes as the U.S. looks to deepen energy production and economic ties with both nations. Trump will join the leaders for a signing ceremony later today.
Also, Dana, you got a crackdown on crime in Washington, D.C. The White House announcing, quote, President Trump has directed an increased presence of federal law enforcement to protect innocent citizens. Starting tonight, there will be no safe harbor for violent criminals in D.C., end quote. The effort will begin as a 7-day operation focused on high-traffic tourist areas. The groups involved include the Metro Police, the Capitol Police, and many others. That announcement coming one day after the president threatened to take over the city's force. Now, crime in D.C. first gained national attention when a former DOJ staffer was left beaten and bloody during an attempted carjacking. So we shall watch that story in D.C. On a related matter, there's more in the Midwest, too. Dana?
And 4 of the suspects in that viral Cincinnati street fight are facing indictments. A grand jury convening today to review the cases. They're facing charges of aggravated rioting, assault for this brawl, a warning for some of the viewers at home. This video is graphic. One of the victims, you can see her. She's knocked to the ground right there. And she spoke exclusively with Fox News last night. She took the police chief and the mayor to task for their response.
I look at it as attempted murder. I mean, there's no other way to describe it. So I think an incident is, it's insulting, to be honest. And I have yet to receive a phone call from her or the mayor just apologizing for what happened and for letting these thugs and criminals run the streets when they should have been in jail to begin with. It is traumatizing. I know my 5-year-old can't stop crying. My oldest daughter told me last night, she said she thinks she needs therapy because she's not okay. She's very traumatized.
I'm bringing in Mike Tobin. He has more on all of this. Hi, Mike.
And Dana, we could see more of the suspects, so it's at least 4 of the 6 suspects in this brawler beatdown gone viral who will go before the grand jury today in Hamilton County, Ohio. If indicted, their legal process gets underway. Meantime, we're hearing from that woman who you just showed, who ended up the most shocking video from the attack as she was punched in the face and hit the ground unconscious with her eyes wide open. Still showing injuries from that violence, this woman who only identified herself as Holly spoke on the Ingram angle last night. She said she got involved because one man in particular was on the ground crying for help, and no one was doing anything other than recording video on their phones.
I want to say at least a solid 15, 20 minutes this was going on. I mean, the videos that you see are little short blurps, but this was going on for so long, it was ridiculous. And it was like one crowd would come in and start beating on them, and then another crowd would come in and take their turn. So it wasn't going to stop.
Now, when the police arrived and she showed obvious signs of injuries, Holly says they did not treat the aftermath like an emergency.
The police officers were being very nonchalant, and they were kind of blowing us off, kind of like, okay, you were in a fight, cool. I don't remember the words they were saying, but just by their demeanor and their attitude, it was a disgrace, absolute disgrace.
This man accused of punching Holly has prior convictions for drug and weapons charges. Holly says he should have never been on the street. Dana?
Mike Tobin, thank you.
If they do not show up, we will be in an Illinois courtroom trying to do just that. Not necessarily trying to handcuff them, but get them back to the state of Texas, hold them in contempt, and if they refuse to come, hopefully put them in jail.
So here we are. It's deadline day for Texas Democrats who fled the state. They must return or face expulsion. Plus this.
Fragile, so easily shattered by the complex geopolitical calculations of the region. Throughout his presidency, Trump had often boasted about his unconventional approach to diplomacy. He believed that publicly lambasting allies, putting pressure on them, was an effective target to achieve his goals. But in this instance, was exposing such a deep rift to the public a shrewd move, or did it simply weaken America's position as a mediator? Trump's public outburst at Netanyahu marked a stark, almost unbelievable shift. Just days earlier, on June 22nd, 2025, Trump had showered praise on Netanyahu, calling him a warrior and crediting their partnership for successful strikes on Iranian nuclear sites. The mutual admiration between the two, built on a foundation of right-wing populism and skepticism towards global institutions, seemed unshakable. So, what changed? Trump's frustration seems rooted in what he perceived as a betrayal of trust and a direct threat to his diplomatic achievements. For Trump, this ceasefire was a personal win, proof of his unique negotiating prowess. Any violation was a direct affront to his reputation and ego. But for Netanyahu, the calculus was far more complex. Facing intense domestic pressure and an ongoing corruption trial, appearing tough on Iran could have been an irresistible political imperative. Analysts like Lord Rickett, the former UK National Security Advisor, have often pointed out that leaders frequently prioritize domestic political survival over international commitments, especially when their very leadership is on the line. This incident doesn't just expose the cracks in their personal relationship between Trump and Netanyahu. It also highlights the inherent risks of Trump's personal diplomacy strategy. When a superpower's foreign policy hinges so heavily on the personality and individual relationships of one leader, it becomes incredibly vulnerable to personal clashes and domestic political pressures. Despite the rocky start, Trump insists the ceasefire remains in effect, and he's ruled out pursuing regime change in Iran. Yet the situation remains volatile. Israeli and Iranian officials continue to trade blame for the ongoing violence. Iranian state media outlets are consistently broadcasting reports of new strikes, while Israeli officials assert they are acting in self-defense. This drama once again underscores the complex, often volatile dynamic between Trump and Netanyahu, a relationship that has swung between mutual admiration and open hostility, but now faces one of its most public and dangerous tests. If tensions reignite, the consequences will be catastrophic. A full-blown conflict in the Middle East wouldn't just impact the nations in the region. It would send devastating ripple effects through the global economy, particularly oil prices. Furthermore, it could easily draw in other global powers, leading to a much wider regional war, a scenario that no one wants to contemplate. Looking back at this entire episode, one can't help but question Trump's overarching strategy. Did his public withdrawal from the Iran nuclear deal on May 8, 2018, a move many experts believe significantly escalated regional tensions, truly laying the groundwork for his confrontation? As figures like John Bolton, Trump's former national security advisor, consistently pushed for a maximum pressure campaign against Iran, was that truly effective? Or did it simply push Iran further into a corner? Critics like Tucker Carlson, who at times supported Trump but also didn't shy away from lambasting his policies, might well weigh in on the failure of the America First strategy to bring stability to an already volatile region. Some might argue that Trump's approach, particularly with his public declaration of "I'm not happy with Israel" on Twitter on June 25, 2025, only deepened divisions and emboldened both sides to continue escalating. This incident is a stark reminder that in the intricate world of geopolitics, no solution is simple. The decisions made by leaders, whether from the White House or the Prime Minister's office, carry far-reaching, sometimes unpredictable consequences. As the world watches the fate of the ceasefire and the future of US-Israeli relations hang precariously in the balance, can old allies find new common ground, or will this once rock-solid relationship fracture completely under the weight of political calculations and personal discord? Whatever the answer is, one thing is clear: the Middle East remains a powder keg, and any spark, no matter how small, could ignite a global catastrophe. Thank you for joining us today. And if you want to dive deeper into any aspect of this story or explore other perspectives, don't hesitate to let us know. We'll be back next time with more insights into the stories shaping our world. Right now, the entire world is holding its breath as sirens blare across the Middle East. Iran, once again, is pushing tensions to the brink of war with a truly shocking threat to close the Strait of Hormuz. This isn't just empty rhetoric. No, not at all. This is a move that could cripple the global energy lifeline and ignite one of the worst economic crises in decades. And who's at the eye of the storm? President Donald Trump, with his bold military decisions. But here's the big question. Could they actually be fatal missteps? Just over this past weekend, Specifically on June 21st, 2025, a series of blistering airstrikes reportedly targeting several Iranian nuclear sites, including facilities near Natanz and Fordow, were ordered by President Trump. Initial reports indicate at least 3 major facilities were hit, with an estimated $500 million in damage to infrastructure. Do you see how this isn't just an isolated incident? Clearly, it's not. This is part of what Washington called a maximum pressure campaign, escalating the confrontation between these two nations to a dangerous new level. And of course, Tehran's response was equally swift and defiant. On June 23, 2025, Iran's parliament voted unanimously to approve a proposal to close the Strait of Hormuz. On June 23, 2025, General Abdulrahim Mousavi, commander of the Iranian army, stated, "If our oil exports are to be stopped, then no other country will be able to export oil through the Strait of Hormuz. We have the full capability to implement this." Now, this isn't some idle threat, ladies and gents. The Strait of Hormuz, though narrow, is the undisputed artery of the world's oil industry. To give you a sense of its importance, approximately 20% of the world's total oil supply, that's nearly 20 million barrels per day, simply must pass through this strategic waterway. The final decision on the closure now rests with Iran's Supreme National Security Council. Airspace over the Persian Gulf is on high alert, with US and allied defense systems significantly bolstered. Critical US military bases like Al-Udeid in Qatar are on high combat readiness, facing an unprecedented threat. So, why is it that the Strait of Hormuz is so incredibly vital? And why would Iran's threat to close it send such